Inwards, outward. Inwards, outward.
I wrote a little something as an introduction. 13 ways to look at independence. A holiday commemorating the Declaration of Independence. Fireworks, James Taylor, barbecue. You don't own me. Pride, self-control, self-determination, self-help, neutrality, nonpartisanship, unrelatedness, wealth. Okay, looking up independent. Free agent, strong-willed, self-dependent, separate, wealthy. Okay, and from Webster's, where it lives close to the word indentured, free from the influence, control, or determination of another. Self-governing. Independence is a city in Missouri near Kansas City, population 37,000. Having an independent income. Are we independent? We like to think we are. But haven't we discovered how interdependent we are? The world shares its crisis of air, water, temperature, and violence. 2 nights ago, my friend and neighbor Marissa texts me from her iPad. I can't find my phone. Can you call me, please? We all need someone to lean on. So let's let it rip. IWOW on a Thursday. But don't forget the 5-minute time limit. And up first is Kitty Kiefer. And on deck is Amelia.
Okay, I've never been first. Very nice, very nice.
When you win the poetry.
Well, I've never been first there, only second and third, which is fine. Independence. Okay, let's get serious here. Independence. Independence is a noun. Generally, it is freedom from control, influence, support, or the like, and freedom from being under others' powers, systems, governments, or even individuals. Examples to illustrate meaning often have to do with one piece of land and people when they win or obtain independence from another country or system of government. The archaic meaning of independence is competence or competency. The individual is competent to make their own decisions. I've been thinking about independence since Denise sent us the word. Other words that come to mind are emancipation, release from chains or bondage. And opposites are enslavement, imprisonment, and court-ordered boundaries or protections. One can be protected from oneself or from others. An extreme example of non-independence is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, a powerful work of fiction. This individual had no family and was incompetent because of her age. She was not allowed to handle her own money or her personal freedoms. She had a court-appointed guardian who was abusive. She fought back and achieved her freedom at a cost. She was not fully free or independent, but she was out from the sphere of power exercised by her guardian. She became a criminal, not totally free, but no longer a captive of the abuser. Rebellion versus due process. Countries pull away from oppressive or abusive masters or governments and colonial powers, and they usually only prevail in armed rebellion and war. These wars are winner takes all, black and white, win or lose. The victor takes the spoils, and the loser is punished in multiple ways. Independence often has a built-in component of wounds and even death for a cause. Personal independence can be freedom from debt, freedom from a bad marriage, or disease. These individual battles are less global in effect, and therefore less shocking and destructive to societal norms. Independence can have a steep price, a price with strong strings, a price that brings with it loss or grief. It can offer a fresh start, a blank page, and hope. The legal process seeks usually to preserve the status quo. It seeks to justify and reinforce stability through predictably repeating patterns and seeks common roots and definitions from the past. That is the simple definition of stare decisis, where courts adhere to precedent in deriving a decision. We did it that way before. Governments preserve themselves. Bureaucrats preserve bureaucracies. Families preserve families. The girl with the dragon tattoo was one person, an intelligent, violent orphan who had been placed with an abusive guardian, a small footprint illustrating great harm. Increase the class of the abused, and now look at Jim Crow. There, one characteristic, skin color, caused and causes the legal process to do great harm. The girl is a fictional character. Jim Crow is a social pattern that is not fictional. In the mid-1990s, I visited one inmate in MCI Norfolk, Massachusetts Correctional Institution, that has the capacity to house about 1,500 men, 100 of which are maximum security inmates. I visited a man I'm calling William. He was in for heroin trafficking and had gone in when he was 20 and was serving 30 years. He was black. My reason for visiting was in response to his reaching out in a program wherein inmates could apply for and complete a BA while incarcerated. I was to discuss schools, schooling, books, major fields of study, books, writing, and answer any, and I mean any, questions he might have about going to college. He had gone into prison without ever having been seen or touched a computer of any sort. Computers were growing. Remember, this was 1994. Computers were growing while he was in prison. The internet was exploding. The world was changing at warp speed. The only thing I could think of to do was give him a subscription to Wired. And we talked about computers whenever I visited. I was the representative of funds that could provide tuition payments, books, and other resources necessary for his studies. He had to know what was available and how to ask. William had a job in prison in the laundry. His job paid $2 a week. During the 2-year course of my visits, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts served him with notice of a court date wherein he was going to be, without representation, judged by default to be in arrears for all child support payments for 2 children that he had when he was convicted. He earned $2 a week. The Massachusetts Family Court was, through default judgment, going to obtain a child support order for arrears support, current support, until the 2 daughters were to be emancipated. The weekly payment he owed was approximately $225 per week per kid. Thus, when he came out in probation in 8 to 10 years, he would owe about $397,000, and he earned a total of $2,000 or a little over while he was incarcerated. I became his representative in family court. The Massachusetts Department of Family Services was outraged when I appeared to represent William. Their bureaucrat, preserving bureaucracy, stood on the prosecution side of the courtroom and said, Your Honor, think of the 2 children. They have no support. We beg that you award child support to the mother and the children, and so on. I simply did the math for the court. The man was earning $2 a week. He was working on a BA, funds for which were a scholarship for the degree, not funds to be awarded to the person as discretionary income. I said that if, when William came out, he owed $397,000, he would have very little chance to earn that money. I asked the court to consider the man, saying that the man, when independent and on parole, was released from MCI Norfolk with a BA, the children and the man would be able to live, grow, and be free of the system that had incarcerated him. The judge heard me. The petition for child support under these circumstances was denied. William's release from prison would now result in his independence. The Commonwealth wanted the judgment of child support owed merely as a bookkeeping entry in their system, a paper win. They knew William would be a prisoner of the judgment and would not be able to meet the obligation. Power can bring with it arrogance. Power can trust stare decisis and momentum from the past. Without resistance or even rebellion, the present becomes self-preserving. Independence is worth having and worth fighting for.
Next up, we have Amelia. Oh, right. All right, here we go.
Issues are hurting my feet, so.
Jeannie on the, looking at,
What is that?
Jeannie next.
Oh, cool. All right.
On the deck.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All righty, independence. Well, when I lived in New York City, I started off walking. I love to walk the city, you know, block after block. It just passed me by all the time. I got where I had to go by walking. And then I got a bicycle, a two-wheeler. And that was fun. I would take it up to 81st Street to see my shrink and pedal downtown again. And, you know, there was nowhere I couldn't go with that bicycle. I wouldn't do it today, but then it was really fun. And then I don't know why, but out of the blue, it might have been a boyfriend du jour, I got a scooter. It was a little Honda scooter, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. And I zipped all around, but it ended up someone stole it. Yeah, and I sort of went, what do we do now? So anyway, the insurance came through, and the du jour guy said, why don't we get a motorcycle? I said, come on. He said, well, I know how to ride one, and I'll teach you how. So I figured, okay, why not? So we got a motorcycle, and I remember the first day I was on it. It was in the parking lot at Fulton Fish Market, and it was like early hours before they arrived, and the place was empty, and it was dark, and I get on it, and it was fabulous. I mean, colors and light streamed by me as I rode down the road, and I just fell in love with it. So I had this motorcycle, and I really loved riding it. And the thing is, when you put it, how you do it is you get off the bike and you put it on your hip and you flip it over and you get it on the kickstand. But you gotta lift your leg up to the back, right? So there was a day that we had a problem at the restaurant. Somehow the ice cream either don't open the freezer where it might have been a power failure, don't open the freezer, don't use the ice cream, don't serve the ice cream. I mean, that's what our thing was. So if we can't do that, what do? We do pastries. So we're running out of pastries, and I call to Sutter's, and I make a big order, and I get on my trusty steed, and I flop over there, you know, zip over. I get to where was it? West 10th and Greenwich. And there's a traffic light there, and I stop at the light, and somehow I lost balance. The fucker went over. And, you know, like, Lady Cool here, and the bike going over doesn't work too well. So, you know, these boots come over and help me lift it up, and I get back on it. And so I get to Sutter's, and we got a lot of things, and so they pile it up and put bungee cords and hold it on, and you get on it this way, and you start it up, and I go back to the restaurant, and then when I get there, I can't get my leg over all the fences. And it never occurred to me. and there was no one around. And I'm sitting there blowing the horn. I'm, trying to wave to someone, come find me, please. And it took a long while before someone came out and got them. And they had to take the boxes off first so I could get my leg off and put it on the kickstand. So my independence back then was really has a lot to do with how I got around. And to me, the city allowed me to do so many things, and that was, having a motorcycle. Oh, I pulled into the garage that I was parking in, and I wore a babushka, cool me, right? And I go into the garage, and I'm zipping in, and I pull it on the thing, and in comes this Cadillac, and four guys come in with the motorcycle jackets and the leather pants, and they're, I don't know who they are, and I'm like, with the babushka, and I'm thinking, I'm in a dark whatever, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen here? And they get into a Cadillac, and they drive off, and I'm okay. So, anyway, that's my motorcycling. And I finally, after I closed the restaurant, and I stopped using the bike for a while then, I guess I was incapable because of my habits. Anyway, I traded my motorcycle with my accountant for services. So that's my life story again.
Wonderful story.
So is it my turn? So I'm going to start with an invitation tonight, so I don't forget to do it. Some of you might have seen the email that went out a few weeks back. It was before the last IWOW when I wasn't here. And thanks to CTSB and Sherry Steiner, I had a show. I was number 41 on Solo Creatives, and it was a blast. And I'm going to have a monthly show. And my monthly show is not going to be like the kind of show I put together to be a solo creative. It's going to be gathering a group of people each month, 8 people, maybe 10, we'll see what we can fit in the space, who want to play. And for those of you who know me, when I say play, it's all non-competitive, and it's about taking risks and being on TV, and it'll get posted on YouTube. So if you have interest, please talk to me. It can be a one-shot thing, or you could be a repeat offender. There's lots of possibilities. So I'm being really brave up here today. My mom passed away yesterday. Ruth, Ma, all the names she had, Rachel. And she was 96 and 5 weeks old. And boy, every inch of the way till the end, pretty much, it was all about her independence. She fought, she kicked, she was combatant, she smashed her head. She wasn't going. But then she was. And I was with her for about 3 weeks a month ago, and she was in a memory care / like long-term care. If you're not familiar with the expression of long-term care, I'm like, she's 96. How long are we talking about? Long-term means to the end of your life. So she had support in hospice, and and it was all that it was. And I got to talk with her on the phone. I mean, she wasn't talking, but the night before, she had squeezed my sister-in-law and my niece's hands, knew it was them, knew they were there. So I asked the nurse to see if she could hear me and to squeeze her hand, and she did. And one of the things often that I did with my mom was sing this song, and it was very calming for her. And Steve did it a few months ago here, so I'm not going to even attempt to try to sing like Steve. But and it's a song that Woody Guthrie wrote the words, and Arlo Guthrie put it to music, and it's a waltz, like 1, 2, 3. Can you say 1, 2, 3? All right, you'll catch on to the words, right? Well, my peace. My peace, my peace is all I got that I give to you. My peace is all I ever have. It's all I ever need. I give my peace to green and black, to red, white, and blue. Peace, my peace, my peace, my peace. What is all I've got that I give to you? That I give to you. So that's the first verse. Want to try it? Yes. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've ever had. It's all I ever had. It's all I ever knew. It's all I ever knew. I give my peace to green and black, to green and black, to red and white, blue, red, white, and blue. My peace, my peace, my peace, my peace is all I've got. I can give and all I can give to you. My peace is all I've got. It's all I've ever known. My peace is all I've got. It's all I've ever known. My peace is worth 1,000 times more than anything I own. My peace is worth 1,000 times more than anything I own. Pass my peace around and around. I pass my peace around and around. Cross every year. Cross every year. Well, I lost it there. I forgot a chorus. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. That was rehearsal. You ready? My peace is all I've got that I can give, that I can give to you. My peace is all I've ever had. My peace is all I ever had. All I ever knew. My peace, green and black. I give my peace to green and black, to red, white, and blue. My peace is all I've got that I can give. My peace, all I've got is all I've ever known. My peace is all I've got. It's all I ever known. My peace is worth 1,000 times more. My peace is worth 1,000 times more than anything I own. I pass my peace around and around, cross hands of every year. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. Yeah, there's not cried during it, but I had such bad cotton mouth.
Okay, I'll come to the mic and I will calm down.
I didn't say calm down, I was saying who's on deck.
Oh.
I didn't ever tell you.
Oh, okay.
Go the other way.
We have Larry Zingale, who has a new book out called Killer Dog that I am reading. And I have a particular place in my heart for Larry because I met him as Lorenzo, and he was my student, and I thought he was one of the best writers I had ever met. So I'm really excited that he will be reading. And after him will be coming up a guitarist, Canu Reeds.
Hi, everybody. I choose to sit. My book took a long time. Thanks to Inward Outward, it was a great help reading throughout the years to get this done. 254 pages. Killer Dog. It starts with a song, which is the 3rd Division marching song. This is a real song. I didn't make it up. I was in the 3rd Division. The 3rd Division was one of the most brutal fighting forces in the United States Army. They fought all the major battles of World War I, World War II, Vietnam, etc., etc., etc. This is their marching song. I wouldn't give a bean to be a fancy pants Marine. I'd rather be a dog-faced soldier like I am. I wouldn't trade my old ODs for all the Navy's dungarees, 'cause I'm the walking pride of Uncle Sam. On all the posters that I read, it says the Army builds men, so they're tearing me down to build me over again. I'm just a dog-faced soldier with a rifle on my shoulder, and I eat raw meat for breakfast every day. So feed me ammunition, keep me in the 3rd Division. Your dog-faced soldier boy's okay. Thank you. Now for my reading glasses. I just had cataract surgery, and I could see like a hawk. But the trade-off is then you need reading glasses.
Larry, bring your stool up a little closer to the mic, just in case.
Okay. All right. Very short opening. Book 1, Chapter 1, September 1957. My name is Joseph Americano, and I live with a lie. I am 19, old enough to vote or get drunk or get killed in a war. The lie doesn't affect me now, but something tells me it will down the road. I wonder about Black Schmidt. It's more his lie than mine. We both have a stake in it. His is just bigger. I get ribbed about my name, but it's the real thing. Grandpa came from Sicily, immigrated when he was 9 or 10, claims Ellis Island butchered the name, said it was Marciano, like the great Italian-American boxer, the only undefeated heavyweight champion in history. But the idiot bureaucrats wrote Americano on all the forms. Grandpa's dead now, the form's long gone, there's no way to know the truth. My father loves America and is proud of the name Americano. The Army also butchers names. Americano got shortened to Cano. First Sergeant Richter came up with it day 1 of basic. He liked nicknames. He was short and tough and mean as a baboon, and even though he topped out level with my shoulders, I'm 6 foot, he scared the hell out of me with those cold, hard eyes that could stare down a killer. Americano's too complicated, he spit out, eyeing my name tag. From now on, it's Cano. But stupidly, I remarked, but Sarge, That's dog in Italian. Better yet, he said, snapping his fingers, from now on it's dog. I hated it. But as basic neared completion, I got used to its bluntness. Dog. Truth be told, I thought it fit me. I learned to live with it, like I live with the lie. Chapter 2, Friday, August 10th, 1984, 27 years later. There was the rain, pounding the windshield like a snare drum. I gripped the wheel like I was trying to choke it to death. The monkey stick was tucked away in the glove compartment, shoved between the bank money envelope and Sergeant Porter's stolen Army issue holstered .45 automatic. The duffel bag with my gear was on the floor behind the driver's seat. I was in a cloud bank and visibility dropped to barely a car length ahead. I kept it under 30 and still had trouble keeping the van on the road. That's when a blur with long dark hair ran across the pavement and waved me down. I stopped and rolled down the window. I saw the black eye first. How could I not? Bluish, purple, tinged green along the edges, impossible to ignore. She was chewing gum, hands on her hips, standing in the rain, no raincoat, no umbrella, didn't seem to care. Well, yes or no? It wasn't a question. I leaned across the seat and cracked open the passenger door. I said, hop in. She got in the van. I looked at her. She wore jeans and a man's flannel shirt. Her wet black hair cascaded long and wavy down her back. Her startling green eyes, framed by dark lashes, held my attention, and then my eyes drifted down to the wet clothes that outlined her curves. She caught me looking and crossed her arms across her breasts. I got the message and I looked away. She sat pressed against the passenger door, staring out the window. I waited for her to say something, anything, but she stayed tight-lipped. I drove another couple of miles west on Route 2 towards Troy, New York, a roller coaster ride across a Berkshire mountain ridge. Finally, I said, anything you want to tell me? No. She rolled down the window and spit out a glob of gum. Let me out. I think I'm going to be sick. I pulled off the road. She jumped out and ran through a field of high wet brush. I ran after her. I saw the cliff ahead and the valley spread out gray and shiny damp far below. Jesus Christ, wait, I yelled. She stopped at the edge of the precipice, her arms pressed tight against her stomach. A step ahead, the field disappeared into a foggy void, the treetops lost in a heavy mist. I grabbed her arm. Take it easy, will you? Men ain't worth it, she said, wiping away a dribble of snot from her delicate nostrils. I stopped for you, didn't I? You think I don't know why? Don't flatter yourself. I let go of her arm. You think because you picked me up I'm easy? I wouldn't jump to conclusions. We stood in the rain at the edge of the cliff. I glanced at the black eye and started feeling sorry for her. I didn't want to get involved in this mess. Knew it was likely a huge mistake, but I couldn't leave her out there in the rain. Okay, what's the deal? I said. He kicked me out. Who kicked you out? Alberto. She hesitated. We lived together. She turned to me then, looked at me for the first time, trying to get a read on me. He loves me, but sometimes. She left the thought dangling, but the black eye completed the sentence. We got back in the van and dried off with a packing blanket. I rolled down the window a few inches and lit a cigarette. I offered her one. She declined, asked my name. Dog, I said. Dog, she said. That's it? That's it. Let's keep it that way. Phoenix, she said, then offered to define it. It's a bird that flies too close to the sun and burns to death. So much for happy endings, I said. Oh, no, you got it wrong, she said. That's not how it turns out. Then it rises from the ashes and lives another 500 years. She tilted her head back and with her fingertips flipped the crow-black hair away from her face. The simple gesture got to me. It was so private, so intimate. I felt I was eavesdropping. I flicked the cigarette butt out the window and glanced at her face. The darkly smooth skin, the aquiline nose, the full lips. Nothing seemed to define her age. She could have been 16 or 18 or maybe 20. Okay, I've been a bitch, she said. She sounded vaguely contrite, but there was a trace of mockery beneath the limp apology. She had quieted down, her brittleness fading into something softer and pliable. She asked me where I was heading. North, I said. North where? I'll know when I get there. Can I go with you? Yes. I didn't hesitate. I might be getting my period, she offered. I don't need to know that. Look, that's why I yelled. I get cranky. How about we change the subject, I said. Can I really go with you? Seriously? I said yes. I don't have any money. I have money. I lit another cigarette, rolled down the window. Then I need to get my guitar and some clothes. She added, and Trip, of course. Who? I was immediately against the idea. Trip, my dog. That complicates things, I said. A dog will complicate everything. You don't get it. I can't leave him. What don't I get, I said. Alberto's unpredictable. She spoke soft and feathery, but I recognized the ripple of fear just below the surface. I can't leave Trip with him. He's the jealous type, she warned. Last night at the mall, he accused me of flirting with a sales clerk. We get home and she pointed to the black eye. You know, she said, Latin temper. Jesus, I thought. Jesus. The cabin was at the end of a long, curving driveway, isolated in a cluster of tall pines. It was the only place in sight. I stopped the van at the end of the driveway, but kept it running, shifting into neutral. Much of the structure was obscured by dense foliage, but what I saw concerned me. A sadly sagging front porch and a partially unhinged shutter flapping in the wind. The yard was wild with weeds, a rusted barrel, and a pyramid of discarded tires. But it was more than that. The desolation gave it a singular sense of desperation. Now what, I said. Come inside with me. Not a good idea. Please, you have to. I'll wait in the car. Jealous type, remember? Oh, she said, are you a coward? She was staring at me and her eyes didn't waver. I wouldn't call me that, I said. You're not in the army, are you? She said, no. Then why are you wearing those fatigues? Long story. I stepped out of the van and felt myself sliding down the rabbit hole. Thank you.
That's right. Okay, next up is Canoe Reads, and on deck is Ronnie Cunningham.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm excited to be here. What a beautiful space you have, and the art on the walls. I'm not sure if any of it's for sale, but I want to buy that one over there, the fourth one from the left. I don't know if I can afford it, I'm just saying I want to buy it. My stage name is Canoe Reads. I'll explain it real quick. I like to canoe, I like to read poetry, and I'm a fan of Keanu Reeves, so put those all together, you got Canoe Reads, little play on words. But my folks live over in Lenox, and I'm visiting. And whenever I'm traveling, I like to do open mics, so thank you for hosting tonight's space. On the theme of independence, I was trying to think of the songs that I like to do. I'm usually a poet, so bear with my singing. This past year, it's been maybe TMI, too much information, but it's been a year of learning to forgive myself and kind of be free of my own guilt and shame about things in life and relationships, yada yada. So this is a song called Better Man. Trying hard to be a better man. But in the meantime, baby, just hold my hand. Grab me tight and don't let go. We can laugh and play one last rodeo. You know me, girl, I got my problem. But with this sober pen, I will solve them. I can be stubborn, I will not lie. But for you, baby, I'll swallow my pride. Chase it down with your big old smile. I heard you laughing again. I know it's been a while. Under these bright stars in the strange new land, I'm glad you found yourself a better man. All right, thanks. Sorry about the incongruent lick, 'cause I had a little too much of that red wine. It's really good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Ronnie Cunningham and Eileen Marcus after.
Hello, everyone. It's been a long time. And really, I just have some bits and pieces. My brother's nickname for me, when he was in the Royal Navy, was the gannet. And if you know anything about gannets, they are the birds that follow ships at sea so that when the garbage is thrown out, they feed on the garbage. And whenever I got home from school, whatever my younger brother hadn't eaten, when I got home, I ate. Consequently, the gannet. But there was a very serious piece of news on BBC tonight. A few years ago, Bass Rock, which is the largest colony of gannets in the world, they were dying out. And of course, I noticed that because I'm a gannet. And but in the last year, there seems to be a huge revival. So this rock that had just looked like a rock in the middle of the Firth of Forth, or is it the Firth of Forth? Well, it doesn't matter. And is now covered with white again. And it's wonderful. Talking about interdependence, as you get older, make more friends. learn to play bridge or chess or do something. Develop more social contacts. I do it. I usher at the Mahawi. I usher at Tanglewood. Anytime there's a spot for me to be somewhere, I will do that because it's all the things I support, I can support by working them. But honestly, for one's brain, it's really good. So I got the biggest surprise of my life in the mail the other day, 2 weeks ago. It was a square envelope. And I looked at all the print and I thought, what? CR3. Postmark, Buckingham Palace and the London postcode. I turned it over on the back and there was the royal coat of arms. And inside was a card from Charles III thanking me for the letter that I had sent to him on the passing of the Queen. And it was honestly, it's beautiful. So the note is on the inside of the card, but on the opposite page, there is a photograph of the Queen with Charles when he was about 3 or 4 years old. And I will treasure that for the rest of my life. But anyway, I do have to say, it's wonderful to be back here. And next time I'll be more formal. Well, not formal.
We love that story about the Queen and Charles. Okay, Eileen Marcus next, and Ted Phelps, you're on board.
Can I move this? No? Okay. Got to move something. Not my body. I am overly unprepared. You know. I was blessed today to be Berkshire Solo Creators number 47. So those of you who haven't done it, it was a great experience. Thank you, CCTV. I was wearing my hat all day. But it really made me think about who I am and what I do and what I want to do. And I just want to start with, I'm totally disoriented. I just want to stand this way, right? You know, we've been doing that for a long time, so I really want to thank Andreas because now I can stand among the tulips and be part of the spring. But I love this new setup, you know? And I talk a lot about changing perspective and what perspective is. And I've really been thinking a lot about Independence Day, Memorial Day, you know, Independence Day is July 4th, Lincoln's birthday, Washington's birthday, Juneteenth, all these things. And you know what the perspective that I have on them is? That is the time to buy an appliance. It has become the holidays of shopping. If you miss like after Christmas sales or Black Friday, right? You wait till Christmas, but Christmas you have other priorities, right? You have people, you have friends, you want to, you know, make cookies, you have other things to do. So even if your stove is breaking, you say, I'll wait, right? Then you get to President's Day, and the sales just aren't good enough at President's Day. So that is how we value our presidents. And then comes Memorial Day, which also, you know, it's kind of like you think it's going to be great, but nothing happens. And then enter the July 4th extravaganza where you buy your appliances. Now, as I went to buy appliances, I was thinking about the ones I had because I have owned this house about 17 years. And when I bought this house, the appliances needed to be replaced then. And every morning, you know, I changed my perspective and say, dear God, let them work another day, right? Because a few years ago, the washer broke. So I bought a beautiful new front-loading washer, but I didn't replace the dryer because I was a little short on funds. So now I got this mismatched set. Now, in the interim, you know, we were talking before about how the internet has come about and computers. You know, it's become very accepted to have mismatched appliances, right? There was a time where they all had to be the same thing, World of GE at the World's Fair. So I get mismatched appliances, and I am getting competitive about these appliances, right? What features I need air fryer, I need this. Now, it comes to the thing of Wi-Fi enabled. I'm like, I need that. I have a Generation 1 Alexa. I mean, I am a tech girl. I love this stuff, you know. I have a Generation 1 Alexa. I have the light that changes. You know, my house is wired. I'm like, I need a Wi-Fi enabled appliance set. So I'm searching through the appliances, finding what I need, all these things. And I put together a package finally, and I'm telling you, it is not for the faint of heart, this shopping thing that happens on July 4th, right? You have to get the right appliances, then you can get the extra boost of, the 3 appliances for $300, but if you don't use the American, there's just, you have to game it, right? You have to sometimes put them in different carts so you can get different. So anyway, I get all the appliances, and I realize, oh no. My refrigerator is Wi-Fi enabled. My range is Wi-Fi enabled, but my dishwasher is not Wi-Fi enabled. And I'm thinking I made a big mistake because what kind of independence do you need to have a Wi-Fi enabled range? I mean, how far are you going from the range when you're cooking that you want to be doing it, right? Setting it different. Now, I make a good popover. Thank you, Betty Crocker. No, it's actually Fanny Farmer. I make a very good popover, right? You put the popovers on for 5 minutes at 450 and then 15 minutes at 350. So that might be okay, but you can do that with delayed start. So what are you doing with this? You can put the turkey in before you leave, but then the turkey is sitting out of the refrigerator before you leave for how many hours if you're turning it on with the Wi-Fi, which you can still do with delayed start. But here's the real problem. What would I possibly need a Wi-Fi enabled refrigerator to do? Tell it to make more ice cubes? Go quicker? What would I need it for? But herein lies the rub. The dishwasher would be helpful to be Wi-Fi enabled because how many times have you left the house and said, damn, I didn't turn on the dishwasher. Damn, I'm going to have not a clean coffee cup when I get back. Damn, you're lying in bed and you're too tired to go from the bedroom to the kitchen to turn the dishwasher on, but your phone is sitting right next to you. So I think independence really means about Wi-Fi enabled dishwashers. That would seriously make a major difference in my life and would actually be something I could do. And I just want to make one other little, what did Ronnie call them, tidbit. I lost my independence about 2 years ago when Beauregard came into my life. Everybody sees Beauregard in the car, comes everywhere with me. I lost my independence. Beauregard was a gift from my ex. That was like the final nail in the coffin. Now I have this big dog, right, that's supposed to be little. And, Andres and I were talking about it. The dog's in this weather and this temperature. So, when we think about, I thought my kid's gone, I don't have to work. I'm really blessed. I have a lot of independence. I'm making friends. I sign up. I do community, like Ronnie said. I'm really giving back. And then the big golden doodle. Now, I will tell you, though, Beauregard has a very independent streak. And it's very funny because you see how he puts his head out of the car, out of the roof. And he's done that when he was a puppy, he was trying to jump out of the car. Anyway, so whenever we are next to bikers, Amelia's story was just like, I'm not getting rid of that vision of Amelia on a bike, but Amelia's story about the bikers, whenever we're next to bikers, we're all like, yeah, because the dog is riding helmetless. But then they look at me and they're like, aren't you scared? I'm like, you're riding a bike and you're worried about my dog. But Beauregard's independent and he makes that choice. So, but I did lose my choice with him, and from now on, may we have all more Wi-Fi enabled dishwashers for an independent.
Eileen Marcus, isn't she funny? Okay, Ted Phelps, and on board is Susan Solveig.
So, holy crow, Eileen. Listen to this. A short story I wrote for us for today. It's called Scarred for Life. If you ever dated Chrissa, you might have seen a little scar on her left leg above the knee, quite a bit above it, so you would have to be dating her to notice it. She doesn't wear those cutoffs anymore. Happened on Independence Day. She always starts the story, makes it sound like something more exciting than it was. Chrissa cut herself. She was 13. It was at Home Best Box. Out of business now, but back then it was one of the 3 or 4 American all-in-one stores. Snow tires next to the frozen shrimp type. Sporting goods, laptops, paint, lumber, stoves, kitchens, bathrooms, casual clothes, lawnmowers, all in one. 5 buildings. And that year, they were the only one of those open on the 4th. And all the other national big box stores that year tried the novel idea of being closed as they marketed it so that our valued workers have a rest. Well, bah to that, said the trustees at Home Best Box. We will make a killing being the only place open. She cut her thigh around 2:30, box cutter from aisle 29 or so. She was alone there, sitting where Mom had put her for a rest. They had entered Best Box around 11, Chrissa tagging along so she would get Mom to buy a sexier swimsuit and then get the budding child a little something for herself. Very little, the new thong thing, all the rage and legal now that the Suburban Pool Association was allowing anything goes swimwear. Famously so after the new body positive regulation that barely passed, pun widely exploited in the press, barely passed in the spring. So they had been there a tiring and fruitless 3 hours, all because dear Mom had been trying to replace the weed whacker they got Dad for Father's Day. The place was packed, and here's the thing. The valued workers were ignoring the valued customers at every turn, yelling, jumping up and down, shoplifting, the papers later said. Even Mom had been shouting at these horrid clusters of valued Home Best Box workers in the green and pink vests, drinking coffees and laughing at their own gossip. She even tried waving the weed whacker above her head. So around 2 o'clock, when they came to a pile of plywood stacked up about 3 feet, Mom said, Chrissa, finally, someplace you can sit. Don't move from here. Keep your app phone on. I swear I'll get this thing taken care of in 15 minutes or someone is going to die. Chrissa cut herself by accident just to clear the air on that. She had on a silicone bracelet from a thing at school the prior fall, a Save the Whales thing, and was tugging at it for 15 minutes, waiting for Mom to come back, and then spied some tools dangling off plastic hooks in the aisle where she sat, and took down a box cutter and opened it up and slipped it under the Save the Whales. Well, she had first sat back down on the plywood and placed the bracelet on her left thigh, and the silicone was stretchy, and when it split, the knife slipped right past and jammed for a second into her thigh. Shit, right where she planned to get a tattoo someday. She didn't even yell, looked around embarrassed, took a pad from her purse and mopped the blood. And maybe what makes this somewhat of a story is how an old lady comes over, limping like she needs a nursing home, wearing the green and pink vest with a Home Best Box valued worker badge. Honey, what happened? Come with me. Takes her to the valued worker lounge and fixes her up with medical glue and bandages. Now call your mom. She did, 5 times, no answer. Mom is busy. Finally got someone's attention. In the next building, DIY valued customer. Says he can repair it back at his cabin up in the mountains. Tempting. But a weed thing only costs $39. Then she hears her name on the intercom. When she arrives at customer service, Chrissa is having a great time with the lady box workers, all telling about working on the 4th and missing their families. Chrissa's helper, though, said, well, gals, I need the hours. My foot is rotting off. They laughed. She added, hey, a month of pills is $300 even with insurance. They wheeled the girl to the car and put a new weed thing in the back. And that's it. Well, of course, they had to go to the quick fix where she got some stitches. Done pretty well for being a holiday. So that's how Chrissa got the scar, as she's been telling it to the nosy and curious, some of them kissing it gently on the first night, years later.
Good work, Ted. Okay, Susan Solvay's up next, and then Julie Balter.
Oh, what a different perspective. I have vertigo. I'm supposed to be over there. Anyway, I love what you've done with the room. It's amazing. Even prettier and more fun than usual. And thank you, Deb, for all the gorgeous artwork. And that's whose art you're enjoying, Deb Hoffman. So here we are, July 4th. That generally means I'd pack a picnic for Tanglewood and look for something red, white, and blue to wear. I want to honor the flag. I want to wear the colors. But I have a flag problem. Why does it seem that rednecks, arch conservatives, tough bikers, and right-wingers own the American flag imagery now? What's that about? How did that happen? For the last 40 years or so, it seems that one party of this enormous country has owned and co-opted the American flag. You know what I mean. Wearing the American flag means you're top, right-wing, Republican, jail the immigrants, don't tread on me, don't take my gun. There's no climate problem. I want to drive my damn Hummer. Wearing the American flag is hell no to abortions, and hell no to all women's rights while you're at it. Hell no to this century. Let's go back to the Eisenhower 50s. That's when things were good and white and apple pie and repressed. They've captured the flag, and I'm mad. It started in the 60s. They said, my country, right or wrong. And my generation had the nerve to object. We objected to the country's involvement in the war in Vietnam. We were being drafted. Our objections were urgent. This was life or death. Hell no, we won't go. Hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? That war turned out to be wrong. It was my country wrong. We lost. And then there was a long, colossal cost for everyone involved. We repeated that in Afghanistan. Endless, long, bloody, wrong, and we lost. Sometimes the country needs to be corrected. So no, I don't believe my country right or wrong, but I still love the flag. And I still love these colors. I love it as much as any biker out there, Amelia. The flag is about true patriotism. This melting pot, the America that I love. America's always been a beacon of freedom in a world where many countries are oppressive. The country I love is accepting, exciting, inclusive, creative place where each of us can make the life we want. That's why people love it here and want to live here. Let them in, please. Friends, Democrats, liberal-minded folks, let's rise up and capture the flag again. We're fighting for our very democracy now. We're witnessing it being subverted by lies, liars, fake news. Who knew democracy was so vulnerable? What happened to checks and balances? Why do I no longer trust the Supreme Court to do the right thing? How has everything gotten subverted so quickly? I am willing to fight for a vision of the country I was brought up to respect. A place of discourse, collaboration, not with presidents insulting people with disabilities. A place where liars are caught and they have the sense to step down. Hello, George Santos. So it's the flag I love. It's the country I love. And I'm not going to let that side own it anymore. I say, let's rise up and take it back. Democrats for democracy.
Okay, Susan. All right, up next, is, hold on, is Julie Balder.
Who's after
What's that?
that? Who's after that?
You are. Boss on.
So, the last time when I lived here, the last story that I wrote, it was 2019. The prompt was independence, and this was the backdrop. Not kidding. I know this because I have it recorded, and I just have like 3 or 4 recordings, and this is one of them. Okay, so one of these days, I'm gonna be one of these people who are like, I'm gonna read something from the book that I wrote, but I didn't write a book. This is somebody else's book. I don't know if you're familiar with the author Ross Gay. I just discovered him. And so I want to tell you why I chose this, because last month when I was here, I was talking about how I've had writer's block for the past 3 years, and how I was really hoping how, while I'm up here during my time here, that I'm going to find my voice again. And I'm on my path to find my voice. And just before we started tonight, I was in the other room, and I told Andre I wanted to buy the print of Deb's The Map of Yesterday, that beautiful meandering of our process. And I feel very much like I'm in that process with my creativity right now. So I decided to write, I want to start reading again. I want to start reading essays. And I'm feeling like it's time for a different voice. So my past voice, I'm proud of what I've written, but at that time in my life, my voice, it had like a lot of snark to it. It's like a little bit bitter, a little bit snarky, and I'm just in this very different place in my life. I don't feel like so I'm finding this new voice, and I'm starting to get interested in lyrical essays. But the lyrical essays that I've read in the past, they're a little bit, they go all over the place. They're hard to understand. There's nothing that makes me more frustrating than if I can't understand a painting or a poem. And so I found Ross Gay, and his words, it's so simple, it's so direct, and he has this story on the surface. It's seemingly simple, and underneath there's so much going on, and that's just sort of what I admire in great writing. And what I particularly love about the Book of Delights is that he is taking the time to remind us to pause. It's a bit on the surface of the meditation of all the things that we're longing for, the simple things, to sit still and admire. And then underneath that, it's also a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because he's like, God, look how crazy and fast we're living, and look at the things that we're valuing. We're selling ourselves short. It's what we value and admire has become sort of this trick of supply and demand. And so I just so appreciate, he's just brilliant. And the voice is written in the voice of a Black man, and I will not be performing in that voice. I will not be changing pronouns. It's just what you hear is what you get. And the title is Inefficiency. I don't know if it's the time I've spent in the garden, spent an interesting word, which is somehow an exercise in supreme attentiveness, staring into the oregano blooms, wending through the lowest branches of the gomey bush and the big vascular leaves of the rhubarb, and also an exercise in supreme inattention, or distraction, I should say, or fleeting intense attentions, I should say, or intense fleeting attentions. Did I mention the hummingbird hovering there with its green gold breast shimmering, slipping its needle nose in the zinnia, and zoom! Mention the pokeweed berries dangling like jewelry from a flapper mid-step. Mention the little black jewels of deer scat and the deer-shaped depressions in the grass and red clover. Uh-oh. I come from people with whom, as I write this, lounging, sipping coffee, listening to oatmeal, talking in a pot,
inefficiency was not mostly an option, I suppose, given it being kind of broke and hustling to stay afloat with two kids and a car always breaking and their own paper routes on top of their jobs and such does not so much afford the delight of inefficiency. Though being broke and hustling to stay afloat most certainly occasions other mostly undelightful efficiencies, such as my father driving from Philadelphia to Youngstown, Ohio, every year to re-register his car in a state where they didn't have inspections because his 1978 Toyota Corolla, in my mind, one of the most beautiful cars ever made, the wagon, I mean, had two doors that didn't open and a hole in the floor and was more or less a notice work of rust. Of lattice work of rust. For instance, I love not getting the groceries in from the car in one trip. Or better yet, I love walking around a city, ostensibly trying to get somewhere, perhaps without all the time in the world, perhaps with, and despite the omnipotent machine in my pocket, frying my sperm, vibrating to remind me of said frying, just wandering. Maybe it's down the street. Maybe it's down this one. Maybe you're with a friend, and maybe the inefficiency will make you look closer. Maybe it's a cafe you're looking for on Cambridge Street, which evidently doesn't exist until drifting along it does, and right around the block across the street from a school where a trio of kids, a black girl with braids, a brown girl in a hijab, and a white girl with pigtails, shoot hoops. In one of my recurring dreams, I'm hurrying somewhere, trying to be efficient, to an airport or work, and just up the road, always up a hill, and often around a bend, feels like parts of Pittsburgh or San Francisco, or sometimes very clearly Philadelphia, is a restaurant with the best veggie burger and French fries. The fries are thick, very crispy, naturally have the skins on, and are creamy inside. The veggie burger holds together, is handmade, probably with about 6 ingredients with it, including the spices. The roll, superb. The decor, who knows? I should remind you that I have never actually been there. I should also let you know that when my partner, Stephanie, opened her exquisite vegetarian cafe, Pulp, the dream subsided. I got lots of those veggie burgers for real cheap. And the week before she sold it, the dreams came back in full force. And there I go, past the turnoff to veggie burger on a hill, zoom being efficient, zoom getting something important done, zoom being productive, zoom as just up the hill and around the bend waits a simple delight, a slow and abiding delight, the passing of which usually only gets me to an airport where, in my dream, I almost always miss my flight, and if I don't, the plane will fall from the sky. Yeah.
Well, Paul Soliday is next, and then I think I will take a turn.
Yes.
It's nice to see Sonia so calm. Let it relax. Calm. This is short and maybe sweet. I don't know. You know, the orientation of the room, it's incredible. But the audience seems less than before. I'm sure it's the same number of people, but now it's wider. So it's and anyway. Every year we celebrate Independence Day, probably without a thought of whether we are truly independent. Are we psychologically or matter-of-factly an island unto ourselves? Americans predominantly speak English, but in many cases we are all hyphenated Americans, and the countries of our ancestors' origins still have a hold on us. Beyond this goulash of multiculturalism, there are the trappings of independence that are arguably the necessities of a viable nation state. A strong economy and a military that can repel aggressors, and of course, borders of geographical definition. But here too, one can see interdependence. Though we have the strongest economy in the world, it is the result of businesses going global. American multinational companies have international masters, which dilute their ability to be flag wavers. By all accounts, we have the most powerful military in the world, but it is also dependent on alliances and mutual assistance by 50-plus nations to effectuate true security. Our Constitution is considered by some to have been divinely inspired. It delineates man's inalienable rights, as well as the responsibilities and authorities of the government. But alas, it depends on the goodwill of people to function, both the governed and the governing. On January 6th, that didn't work out so well. In our beginnings, we had oceans to encourage isolation, and the difficulty of communications across vast distances and time zones to further inhibit our sense of globalization. But evolving technologies closed those gaps, and with it, our world participation grew. We are literally a keystroke away from any one person or place in the world, and even the air we breathe is shared by people in the far corners of the planet. We are reminded of that when our Canadian cousins blew smoke our way. Borders are irrelevant to the winds of change. So yes, celebrate our independence on the 4th, but on the next day, bear in mind, there is no real independence in an interdependent world.
Well, I'm Sonia Pilser, and I'm your host. And this is completely different, but I'm a novelist, as many of you know, but I started out as a poet. And I believe poetry has been my laboratory, and I just wanted to share a couple poems with you to just show you where I started. I want you to see this pathetic thing. I mean, it's yellow, it's typewriter, it's really, it's probably, I hate to say it, from maybe the mid-70s. And it's before I started writing novels. But I just want to give you an idea of where I started. And the first poem I'm going to read is called Fire Dancer. And it's kind of a manifesto in a way. Move to the left, okay, to the left. No, I'm moving is this okay? This way or that way? Okay. At 10, I saw magic. A paper snake lit by matches danced as if charmed, burning in phosphorescent milk. Dance only in fire, it hissed. stolen away, exiled on a child's pillow, I spun around like a dervish on ice, a mummy wrapped in soaked blankets, waiting out history to live. My feet are dipped in asbestos. The scarab on my wrist is luck. In the trill of a lunatic flutist, I dance and the paper dolls burn. Okay. Okay. No, please. And I have a little series that's called Childhood. I was big as a nun, knowledgeable of the facts of life, tinier than a cat, a polka dot. The witch on the second floor dropped a tissue-wrapped coin out of the window, commanding a quart of milk for tea. I fought dragons and cars. It was years before I returned. The milk was still cold. Rainbows aren't in the sky. That's just what they tell us. You know, tooth fairies, God. But I've seen rainbows on the corner of my street. They smell funny. I wonder if dogs do them who eat boxes of crayons. I don't believe it. My mother and father wouldn't. You don't know them. They're old-fashioned. Besides, they're not American. Well, I was probably adopted. Between the petunias and begonias, Sonia sat on the fire escape, calling the boys' stickball game, till they told me to keep my big trap shut. So I bombed every one of them with water balloons. Even the pigeons knew my name. My mother wept when she cut the bubble gum out of my hair. It didn't really hurt, not as much as the time I got it on my eyelashes. I once had to go to the hospital to be operated because I stuck a bottle of lavender eau de cologne up my nose because it smelled so fine. Did we spin hula hoops, or did they ring around us like a gyroscope? Were there really girls named Alice who came from Alabama? I stepped on as many cracks as I could, and my mother never even had a backache. The witch on the second floor gave me a diamond necklace. I bobby pinned it on top of my head and wouldn't take it off ever, not even when I went to sleep. That's the end of that cycle. Now I want to read, this is a little older, Maiden Rights, and that actually became the title of my second novel. Whipping black hair until it rose in puffs of amorous dragonflies. Every night 100 lashes. Prayers at the mirrored altar for a blessing of breasts. Hourglass shell for a twig. Kisses spun by the bottle, shared with a pillow warm for tears, to know the dark passages when violins swelled. Maybe they are wounds, preserved like pickled babies. In the light you can see nerves. But maybe they are ruby-stung reptiles uncoiling out of the grassy wonder, my uncorseted belly, into a mouth spitting poison to the gods. And I just want to say, as a writer and as a writing teacher, I learned how to write by writing poetry, the rhythm, making metaphors, and just beginning to open that up. And I had a therapist. She was the one that first got me started writing poetry. But after a while, she said to me, you know, if you want to have a career as a writer, you have to write novels. And I said, oh, you're a Philistine. That's disgusting. And she was right. But it was incredibly hard to open a box that's that tight. As you can see, it was really tight. but I swear the metaphors that I created, and this was in my 20s, became the metaphors that I then used in my novels. So, thank you. Steve Mole, and then we'll hear one more from you, okay? Thank you. What's that? Yes, of course.
Yes.
Hi. So we lost our friend Jeff last month. I mean, he didn't even look sick, did he? Yeah, so, and I just want to say, so 2021 wasn't good, right? We lost Deb, and we lost Rose Tannenbaum from Fort Barrington and Dawn Barbieri. And my wife passed away on July 9th, 2 years ago. Yeah. And today would have been her birthday. So on Deb's first anniversary, they had a little get together out front, and it was cold weather. You were all, some people, remember the ice balls they had? Somebody made like ice sculptures out of balloons, frozen balloons with the candle in it. It was so cool. Yeah. So when I was walking in, our friend Kristen asked me to sing a song, but I wasn't prepared. I said, I can't sing that song tonight because I didn't prepare it. So I'll sing it now. Let's see. You can sing. When I find myself in time of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. When the night is cloudy, she is standing right in front of me, whispering words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. When the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. Though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Yes, there will be an answer, let it be. When the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I'll wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, whispering words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Yes, there will be an answer, let it be. Oh, yeah. Bravo. All right, so I'm going to sing a song I wrote quite a while ago, I bet. Or no, it is. I don't have to bet. It is quite a while. It's sort of like something to do with independence. It's called Raise Your Voice. I'm just going to get a sip so I don't have cotton mouth. You know, I did buy a washing machine last year. I bought a GE with the least amount of warranty on it. The reason I bought it, it had precise fill, speed wash in 25 minutes. Done. So there you go. Raise your voice. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, that's wrong. Raise your voice for freedom. You'll be heard all across this land. Raise your voice for freedom. Take your neighbor's hand. Raise your voice for freedom. We've been fighting these wars too long. Raise your voice for freedom. You'll be heard all across this land. Raise your voice for the children who go hungry every night. Raise your voice for the mothers who will never give up the fight. Raise your voice for the soldier sacrificed his life. Raise your voice for freedom. You'll be heard all across this land. Raise your voice. Raise your voice. You'll be heard all across this land. Raise your voice for the homeless. Hope for one more chance. Raise your voice for the families still living in a one-room shack. Raise your voice for the soldier earned our respect. Raise your voice for freedom. You'll be heard all across this land. Raise your voice against injustice. It's justice we deserve. Raise your voice for freedom. Give us the truth, not hollow words. Raise your voice against oppression. We should all be living free. Raise your voice against the killing in the name of liberty. Raise your voice against the killing in the name of liberty. Raise your voice. Raise your voice. You'll be heard all across this land. Raise your voice. Raise your voice. You'll be heard all around the world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Okay, I think we're gonna get a single poem from Canoe Reed, and then Andrew Donnelly, a little bit of stand-up here. How do you like that? We could use a good laugh, right? He says it's a little profane, but can we handle that?
Thank you. All right, I didn't expect to go twice. Thanks for having me again. Since we're gonna have some fun, profane comedy after me, I think I'm gonna do one of my sadder poems, I guess you could say, more or less. This one's called "The Sound of Our Song." Alone, I felt so alone. So I picked up the phone and tried to call home. I cried, no dial tone. I mourn all those we've lost. We're up in heaven in a much better place, laughing all day in the heavenly space. I'm torn. I miss my old love. Earth angel, she was sent from above. Our two hearts once shared the same space. Now I wonder if she even remembers my face. I drop the phone, I start to pace, reliving memories of our final embrace. Tears roll down past my cheek, and I admit, I still think about her every day of the week. Year after year, life after life, love never ends. Hey, maybe one day I'll meet her again. But to all those I loved, all of my friends and all of the rest, good times. I wish you the best, and I pray it comes fast. I cherish our past. But it's time I set sail, I put up my mast. The coast is clear, can take off my mask. Because this is me, and this is who I am. And I'm not alone, I'm nearly every man, and this is how we sometimes feel. Not shipwrecked, just stuck in the sand. So we face the storm and trust in God's plan. So from light to dark, dusk to dawn, stars may die, but life goes on. They tell me to forget, but I'll always remember the sound of our song. Thank you.